Art Cup! Hey, you! Don't touch the art!
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Art Cop, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend our museums and the artworks and artifacts displayed within against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Folks, when I uttered that oath on Inauguration Day, I was following in the footsteps of my forebears, proudly carrying on the family tradition of art coppery. My great-great-great-great-grandfather was at the Last Supper, hand to God. Do you know what Jesus Christ told Grandpappy that fateful night? He said, "Truly I tell you, one day there will be a dude named Leonardo da Vinci who will commemorate this very mediocre dinner party with a famous mural painting. I want you and your descendants to guard this work of art, and every other painting of me, which will basically be like all of them until the Renaissance hits. So like, be fruitful and multiply, etc., etc." Then Jesus said unto him, "Oh, by the way, I'm about to die for you because you're all a bunch of fuck-ups. Except you, Grandpappy Art Cop, you're perfect. And you, my faithful disciples, will all be persecuted and die horrible, gruesome deaths too." Yes, Grandpappy Art Cop was martyred. For years he faithfully patrolled the convent where Da Vinci's The Last Supper was displayed, until, one day, he just died of boredom. That's a real occupational hazard when you're an art cop. Luckily, OSHA got involved and implemented industry safety standards. Nowadays, if you get bored, you can just zone out or pretend you have to pee and hide in a bathroom stall. Back in Grandpappy's day, you just died. Anyway, for the past 2,000 years, Christians have been preaching the good news. Unfortunately, Art Cop here bringing up the rear with the bad news. Turns out, some exclusions apply. The fine print short list of unforgivable sins? Touching art. Busting out a bucket of chicken wings in the galleries. Hogging the space for your fashion photo shoot. Sometimes I feel like the museum mom. Keep your hands to yourself. Does that belong to you? Then don't touch. Listen, when your kiddo is sprinting towards that El Greco, and you're casually lollygagging 100 feet back scrolling TikTok, guess what? The art is definitely getting touched. I know it, you know it, the Chinese spies watching through the TikTok app know it.
请不要碰艺术品.
How about closing bell tantrums? Good evening. The museum has now closed. Thank you for visiting. Please go away.
But I'm a museum member!
When I hear that, I know it's time to batten down the hatches and brace for the hurricane. But no storm of entitlement can break this dike. People will say the wildest shit to get around the rules. Oh, I have rabies. I have to bring my water bottle into the galleries for medical purposes. Oh, this is my service hermit crab. He can sense when I'm about to fart. Folks, I've heard it all. Do you know how many hours I've wasted over the years arguing rules? Well, I'm here today to reclaim my time. For the next 30 minutes, I'll be conducting a practical demonstration of selfishness, wasting your time gritching about one of my pet peeves. Dear listeners, my girlfriend has a cat. My girlfriend has a cat named Stan. Stan is an asshole cat. You know that priceless Ming Dynasty vase? Stan would take great delight in smashing it to smithereens. That Georgia O'Keeffe? Stan would revel in ripping that canvas to shreds. Dear listeners, my sister has a dog. My sister has a dog named Bongo. Bongo is full of joy and boundless enthusiasm. Bongo is also full of shit and slobber. Saliva strands dangle from his jowls, threatening to snap and drench you in slimy hound drool. Animals, you may be shocked to learn, are not welcome in art museums. Now, since I'm hosting a podcast, obviously you can't see this, but there's an asterisk here. If you peruse the fine print, you'll notice an exception to the rule: service animals. Folks, how many pet owners are in our listening audience? Go ahead and raise your hand. Actually, can you do animal sounds instead? So like bark or meow or caw-caw? Okay, so that's a fair number of you. Now, how many of you pet owners have tried to bring your pet into an art museum? I can't tell. Is that a cricket owner confessing or an audio cue? We'll just say none of you have brought your pets to the museum, because you have what we in the security industry call qualms. A qualm is what prevents you from touching that Singer Sargent, or stealing that Tiffany clock. Sadly, some people have no qualms. There's just a hollow cavity right under the spleen where the qualms are usually stored. Now, the body compensates, of course. Anyone born without qualms will have a sort of sixth sense, a sense of entitlement. These folks have no qualms about passing Fido off as a service dog. In the law enforcement community, we have a name for this type of fraud: stolen valor. Stolen valor is far from a victimless crime. Look, we don't need imposter service dogs peeing in our planters. Fake service dogs make life tough for folks with legitimate disabilities. So throw us a bone. Leave your hound at home. Today, we've invited a special guest to clarify all things canine, M. Esquire. M is an attorney who has been practicing law for over a decade. You'd think she'd be good at it by now, but practice makes perfect. Last year, M was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her role in mediating a ceasefire between cat people and dog people. A fragile, temporary peace that shattered when it was discovered that M was, in fact, fomenting pro-cat sentiment online. Tragically, her blog, finepussy.com, that's felines in need everywhere, has been shuttered. For legal purposes, I have to disclose that M is my extremely hot girlfriend. She's also deaf, so she's automatically qualified to speak on behalf of every person with a disability. Thank you for your time and expertise today. And I see you brought a friend? Who is this rando?
This is my lawyer, Chase McAmbulance Chaser.
Why did you bring a lawyer to this interview?
You should always retain legal counsel when being questioned.
This is just for the podcast. You know that, right?
On the advice of my counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and will not be answering your question at this time.
Okay. Let's start over here. As a person living with a disability, I know this topic of service animals is near and dear to your heart.
Yes, I was born deaf. In fact...
Oh, no, I was referring to your gross incompetency.
Hey, millions of Americans are born with incompetence every day. You can't discriminate against us. We are a protected class.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly is the legal definition of a service animal?
Objection. Loaded question.
What's a loaded question?
Exhibit A. For the record, I'm showing my bemused girlfriend a loaded baked potato. Observe: cheese, sour cream, chives, and bacon. Yet, at its core, this starchy root vegetable, much like your question, is a hot potato, which I will toss to McAmbulance Chaser. Ooh, ooh, hot, 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 hot. As I suspected, service animals are defined as dogs that are individually trained to do work or perform tasks for people with disabilities. That's verbatim off the ADA website. And as we all know, ADA stands for the American Dental Association. Wow, our dentists are really out here legislating at the federal level. Should we elect more dentists? We'd get those potholes filled, I could tell you that. Bridges, done. No more crumbling infrastructure.
So only dogs can be service animals?
There's also a clause permitting miniature horses.
What? How did that happen?
A famous civil rights attorney pleaded the case to the Supreme Court. During closing arguments, opposing counsel rolls his eyes and tells Civil Rights Esquire to get off his high horse. The justices deliberate and vote unanimously to strike high horses from the amendment. But, loophole! The clause doesn't say anything about low horses. The humble miniature horse, measuring in at a mere 3 feet tall, was officially recognized as a service animal in 2010.
I bet they don't teach that at law school. What kind of work or tasks do service animals perform?
On the advice of my counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and will not be answering that question at this time.
You have no clue, do you? How exactly did you pass the bar?
They lowered the bar just for me.
I see here on the official ADA.gov website that service animals can guide folks who are blind, alert those who are deaf, pull wheelchairs, and even sense seizures before they happen.
Here's a question I get asked all the time. Are the service dogs coming for our jobs? People are legitimately afraid. And I always say, well, if you were accused of a crime, who would you rather have representing you? Me or Bongo the dog?
Oh, Bongo the dog, 100%.
Objection! I've never lost a case.
You've never tried a case.
Can't fail if you don't try.
How inspiring. You know, the federal laws governing service animals seem kind of vague. I'm guessing each state has more specific laws on the books?
You want specific? Check out Rule 4112-5-02 in your state of redacted administrative code. The following is a list of places that are legally obligated to accommodate service animals. Here, read this.
Includes, but is not limited to, all places included in the meaning of such terms as inns, taverns, roadhouses, hotels, motels, whether conducted for the entertainment of transient guests or for the accommodation of those seeking health, recreation, or rest.
Wow, am I still talking? Huh. You know, before I became an art cop, I actually auditioned to sing the hold music you hear when you call, like, your insurance company or an airline or retailers. Did you know hold music is sung live by some very talented vocalists? Sadly, I didn't get the gig, but you're a captive audience, and it would be my honor to audition for you right now. I call this one Primal Rage. It was inspired by the vocalizations of the howler monkey, the loudest land animal. Here's Primal Rage. Imagine listening to that for 30 minutes while you're on hold. Oh, hey, I think we're winding down here. Finally.
On a non-social, sporadic, impersonal, and non-gratuitous basis.
If you listen to that section backwards, you'll hear a secret message.
We so admire and aspire by her to wit, revive this fire. Justice is her true desire. Works so hard will never tire. Plus, our nation won't perspire. Her clients want her to retire.
Next question.
A lot of times when visitors bring their pets to the museum, they'll say, oh, Fido here is an emotional support animal. Can you explain to our listeners the difference between service animals and emotional support animals?
Remember our walk last night? I went to cross the street and didn't hear that car coming. I stepped right off the curb and you yanked me back just as a car whizzed by. That was you being my service girlfriend. Now, imagine I've had a tough day at the office. Say I accidentally committed some light legal malpractice. Maybe I missed a crucial filing deadline because I was busy knitting sweaters for Stan the cat. So, I go home, eat a whole baguette slathered in butter, and I start to feel a whole lot better. Could be the carbs. More likely, it's my hot girlfriend listening to me, comforting me, and being there for me. That's you being my emotional support girlfriend.
So we're not legally obligated to allow emotional support animals into the art museum?
At my law office, Against Your Better Judgment, LLC, we believe in challenging our clients to find the answers to complex legal questions themselves. Ultimately, our goal is to empower our clients to represent themselves in a court of law. We have a saying in the legal industry.
Cito te ipsum.
That means, know thyself.
Doesn't that mean, like, know your limits? Not that you should, like, literally know the intricacies of the law by yourself. Did you even pass Latin?
I walked by that classroom every day.
To confirm for our listeners out there, the ADA website says we don't have to allow emotional support animals into the museum. Sometimes visitors will sneak in dogs wearing vests that say something like service dog or do not pet, I'm working. Are these vests proof that the dog in question is legitimately a service dog?
Here, put this on.
For our listeners, I'm now wearing a fluorescent high-vis vest that reads, Refuse Worker. Huh? I've never refused to work. I've never called off a day in my life. I guess I am a confuse worker.
Refuse, babe. Like trash collector. Do you drive a garbage truck? Or pick up trash?
No, neither.
I rest my case. Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess. See how this works, babe. You sell more ads. I get more billable hours.
You know I'm not paying you for this appearance, right?
Breach of contract. You'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Oh, I am in frequent contact with her. We're actually in a relationship.
That's a conflict of interest. She should be disbarred.
I'm beginning to think that too.
Babe, I know you struggle with constructive criticism, so I wanted to tell you this without the microphones recording. But I guess we'll blast this to the world. If you want Heist to be a hit, you can't be overloading the audience, with boring facts and legalese. That's why I'm humbly suggesting a new strategy. I'd like to introduce Exhibit B, Stan the Cat.
You brought your cat to the recording studio?
If the lobbyists had enough horsepower to enshrine miniature equines into law, then my pussy should be able to persuade the dentists of America to include felines too. I'm going to train Stan to be a service cat right here, right meow.
To my knowledge, you have no practical experience training animals.
The dentists are surprisingly lax about training. Service animals are not required to undergo professional training. There's no licensure, regulation, or oversight whatsoever.
Are you sure this is a good idea?
All my ideas are good ideas. This podcast episode will be Exhibit C, proof that cats can be just as useful as dogs, or miniature horses.
For our listeners, Stan is a 9-year-old tabby cat.
Feliz gatos.
Stan likes to eat plastic and take naps. Stan is not what I would call lazy per se, but I would definitely describe him as indifferent to the concept of work.
For the record, I'd like to add that there's a 1 in 37 chance of success here.
That's oddly specific.
Way back in the 1800s, Belgium recruited 37 cats from a village near Liège to deliver the mail. The authorities placed messages in pouches, fastened the pouches to the cat collars, and set the felines loose in the city.
Yeah, how'd that work out for Belgium?
Cats are not beholden to mere human trivialities like timeliness.
One cat made it back.
And with that shining success in the forefront of our minds, let's get started. A key tenet for any service animal is obedience. Let's see if we can get Stan to come when I call him. Here, Stan! Stan! Come here! Stan! Kitty!
For our listening audience, Stan is perched on the arm of M's chair, flicking his tail and staring at us with a vaguely disdainful expression. He seems unlikely to comply.
Let's try another critical task. Fetch. Service dogs routinely retrieve items for their owners. To mimic that, I'm going to toss my keys. Ideally, upon command, Stan will bring them to me.
For our listening audience, Stan is now grooming himself reproachfully. Stan is communicating the following through his body language. I am a direct descendant of the feline goddess Bastet. Pick up your own keys, dumbass.
Now, here's a category where Stan will excel. Intelligent disobedience. If a service animal is given a command that endangers the handler, the animal should ignore them. For example, if a person who is blind tells their service dog to cross the street, but there's traffic coming, the dog should not say, "Okay," and let their handler get pancaked by a bus. What I'm going to do now is intentionally put myself in a dangerous situation.
Is that a good idea?
And what I want you to do, Stan, is ignore me. Okay, I'm going to pick him up and open the window. What floor is this?
5th?
I'm just going to climb up here.
For our listening audience, my girlfriend is perched precariously on the window ledge, holding an extremely grumpy cat. Chase McAmbulance Chaser is circling like a vulture.
Okay, Stan, let's take a few steps forward.
For our listening audience, Stan is glaring at my girlfriend with an expression that can only be described as utter contempt. He is now arching his back and puffing up. I am no expert in cat body language, but it seems possible that Stan is attempting to communicate his displeasure in being lifted bodily and dangled out of a window.
Okay, Stan, let's cross the street. Did you see that? He did it! He ignored me!
Thankfully, Em has come to her senses and has climbed down from the window ledge.
Ow!
For our listening audience, my girlfriend made an ill-advised attempt to positively reinforce Stan's behavior with gentle petting, which Stan rejected with a swat.
I think the takeaway here is that there's a lot of raw potential, but how do we harness that? Because I think we can all agree that cats are altruistic creatures at heart. Cats are like a baguette. Once you get past the crustiness on the outside, they are soft and warm on the inside.
Maybe we're asking just a little too much of bread, though. Maybe bread should just do what carbs do best and leave the heavy lifting to, say, protein.
Don't listen to her, Stan. She doesn't mean it. You would make a great service cat. And to all the cats out there who have faced discrimination chasing your dreams of becoming a service animal, contact my law office. You may be eligible to join a class action lawsuit against the Dentists of America.
Em Esquire, thank you for being with us today and sharing your expertise, on service animals. Next week, join us as we take the show on the road. That's right, folks, we're going on a field trip. Pack your bags and have your wits about you. We'll be traveling to an exotic locale to investigate a series of spooky hauntings in an art museum.
Ooh.
We're going ghost hunting. Will we debunk these reports of artistic apparitions? Or will the terror and paranormal turn us mad? Find out next week. Until then,
Heist out.
Heist was written and produced by Art Cop and M. This episode was Chase McAmbulance Chaser? What are you doing here? Our favorite legal malpracticer asked me to read this verbatim. Heist is a work of fiction. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to train a feline as a service animal. Risk of withering stares, disdain, and death may occur. If you ignore these warnings, you're going to need a lawyer. Chase McAmbulance Chaser specializes in cataclysmic events. Simply make ambulance noises, and Chase will miraculously appear. Alright, folks, consider yourselves disclaimed. Check out our website, heist-podcast.com, for full episodes and transcripts. Follow us on our socials, at ArtCopGalPals on X, Heist Podcast on Facebook, and Heist Headquarters on Instagram. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Heist.